Hey everyone, John Hunter here, and today in the market psychology video, we're going to be coming back from a holiday, taking a look at what crude oil's response to that holiday vacation was. So over the past weekend, we had the Labor Day weekend, meaning that yesterday, although the markets were technically open, they were really slow and they closed early. And that early close, when we opened up again, we were met with this big old gap down. And looking at the European session, the European session had a huge amount of fun. There was all kinds of volatility. The ranges were through the roof. The volume is massively high. Right now, we're at 750,000 contracts traded, 750,000 on crude oil. Let that sink in, okay? I don't remember the last time we've ever been that high in volume. And for the first 3-4 hours of the day, well, maybe not that many, the first 2 hours of the day or so, in all of the morning session, we had significantly more volume in crude oil than the S&P. So the amount of volume that's coming in right now is massive. And that does allow for either one of two things. It's going to be so heavy that we end up like the S&P and we just can't go anywhere because everybody is in everybody's way. Or we're going to start off with a lot of range. We're going to be moving all over the place because there are so many contracts flying through the market. Looking at the European session, that's probably what happened. They had so much volume, it caused a drastic movement in the overnight session, leading to this nice gap down. And this big gap down, now we're thinking, okay, well, we just gapped underneath back into last week's price action. Maybe we're going to see a little bit more follow through. We saw some buying coming in, but not a whole lot, not enough to really be concerned about. And then a big gap down, that might just be buyers are trapped, but there's not really enough to back that on, so we need to wait for more information. We get a small little inside bar, yeah, not really a whole lot there either, and we finally get a nice bear breakout. Now, in this case, why isn't there an arrow there? The reason there's not an arrow there is mainly because look at this weak start to the day, right? Yes, they're trying to break out and they're trying to continue to the downside, but if the bears were strong after that big of a gap down in the context, they should have done it from this candle, not all the way over here. So it is likely that sellers will sell this breakout candle, but it's not as likely that they're going to get a huge move out of it because otherwise the sellers would have been here for 15 minutes at that point. So something to keep in mind when you're looking at these breakouts, where were they in the first two candles? Why couldn't they show up here rather than all the way over here if this was a strong breakout day? And that's exactly what happened. We get the breakout. They do get follow through because, again, sellers sold into it. And then we start showing a little bit of weakness. Bull inside bar, not a big deal, right? Sellers will probably sell the retrace and try to get another leg to the downside. But then this big boy shows up, right? Huge bear engulfing candle. And look where all of the wick is. All of the wick is at the bottom. That's a big red flag, right? That's, pardon the bad pun, that's a big red flag though. Sellers don't want to see that. They follow it up with a nice bear candle. Okay, maybe we're getting a little bit of semblance back. And then we go into a bull candle. Okay, it's all right. The high of this big engulfing candle wasn't broken, so that's good. And it does look like sellers came in above here, causing this really weak bull candle, and then we get a nice strong bear candle that fails and goes back the other way. Wait a minute, right? Something is drastically wrong. The sellers should have been able to not only get this move going, they came in late to that one, but then when they finally have a chance to come back in, they miss all of their opportunities to go. No, any sellers who are in this, when they see this candle here, knowing that news is coming out at 10 o'clock on top of that, there is no way they are going to stick around to see what happens. They're going to exit above it, which means that is a beautiful long signal for buyers to jump in thinking that, hey, if we had such weakness at the start, the bears failed their follow through, buyers are showing a decent amount of continued movement, there's a good chance that we end up as a range and we're gonna go right back to these highs. So buyers jumping in here to drive that market up, and that's buyers both buying into new positions and sellers exiting old ones because they think they're wrong, and that causes this gargantuan run higher straight into the moving average. And that big drive higher, where are we now? Well, this is the biggest candle, not to mention the biggest bull candle, but the biggest candle of the day, and we're at the highs, closing at its highs. Yeah, something's wrong here, right? A lot of sellers aren't going to believe this anymore, and a lot of buyers are going to say, oh, thanks, crude oil, close, and they hit the close button and they take their profit, and that's going to cause a drop lower. So it is a beautiful, bullish, exhaustive type move, selling into it to drive the market back down. They couldn't finish off the job back to new lows before returning to the highs, and what do we think is going to happen now, right? We have a potential wedge top. We know that it's a range, right? So knowing that it's a range, we just saw signs of the bulls completely giving it up here. If they come back, do you think it's going to be a big breakout move to the upside? Yeah, probably not, right? There's going to be a lot of sellers above there not believing them. Yeah, sure, bulls try to break out. I don't believe you. And when they try to break out, they're immediately sold right back down for another beautiful sell to attempt to get that leg to the downside. Now notice where we found support. We found support on that potential wedge top, possible channel either way. We found support right there, and that's likely because all of the sellers that sold in here took their profit off here instead of looking for the low of day. Given that we missed it here, we missed it here, we missed it here, we're probably going to miss it here too. So beautiful combination of both technical analysis and market psychology. Lots and lots of market psychology today. Just a beautiful example of what's going on. And that's going to do it for this one. So hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully you found it informational and you learned something. And we'll see you next time.